It's Abu Dhabi, the 2025 season finale. I can't believe we're here already. It is a championship decider with count them, three drivers who can still mathematically win the championship. What more could you possibly ask for? What's going on, guys? And for the final time this season in Formula One, welcome to our weekend predictions for the 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. I can't believe it's already been 23 race weekends under our belt. And here for the final time, like we said, is going to be a championship deciding weekend. Lando Norris currently leads the World Championship, followed probably a lot more closely than he would like by Max Verstappen, with teammate Oscar Piastri not too far behind him. It's going to be an interesting weekend. We're going to see a lot of action, and we've already decided that we're going to get absolutely insane, because why not? Let's have some fun. We're going to be going over our weekend predictions, which include our biggest positive surprise, our biggest loser, our qualifying top three, our race podium, and for the final time this year, we'll wrap things up with our one crazy prediction. It is going to be so much fun. I hope you're as excited as I am. Let's go ahead and jump on into this thing with our biggest positive surprise. Let's kick things off with our biggest positive surprise, and this time we're going with a driver that we have not gone for in a while. We're going back on vibes, and it's going to be a potentially record-setting weekend for him if it comes true. My biggest positive surprise, my final biggest positive surprise of this season, is Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki unfortunately seems to be taking a step back in the Red Bull program, demoted down to being a reserve driver for the main team, being replaced next year, which makes this weekend his final race in Formula One on the grid full time. Will he make it back? Time will tell. We'll probably talk about that later. But ultimately, considering it's his last race in F1 in this season, in this stint on the Red Bull family, I think it could not possibly line up better for our boy Yuki Tsunoda to have a good weekend. I think I also saw, but did not fact check, but I'm going to believe it because I think it is very plausible. Yuki Tsunoda is 1 point away from becoming the record holder for a Japanese driver on the grid in terms of points scored. So I need Yuki to finish in the points. I think it would be very befitting for him and his time spent in the Red Bull program, thriving in that junior team, really showing what he is truly made of, and ultimately just did not get the opportunity in the main Red Bull team this season with a car that was dang near impossible for anyone else besides Max Verstappen to drive. I have to believe it. I like Yuki. I like Yuki a lot. That's why I'm backing him this weekend in Abu Dhabi. He's going to be my biggest positive surprise for the final time this season. All right, let's move on to our biggest disappointment. And we're actually not going to be going into too much detail for obvious reasons. We'll be talking about it later. And I can't believe that we're actually just doing this. My very brief biggest disappointment for the 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Lando Norris. We'll come back to that, but let's quickly go ahead and move on, because everything I'm going to say here, I'm going to say later. So we'll just put a pin in this. We'll come back to it. Let's go ahead, jump straight on into our qualifying top three. Let's begin in P3, and this time out we're going with Oscar Piastri in P3. I'm hoping that Qatar really unlocks something in Oscar's, psyche once again. Obviously, he left Qatar probably a bit more down than he would have liked, considering how much pace he showed in Qatar last time out before ultimately, thanks to a McLaren mistake, giving up a race win and potentially being in Max Verstappen's shoes going into Abu Dhabi, coming in with an even larger, battle and hill to climb. I think he hopefully is going to come in a little free, knowing that he has to do what he's got to do, and it's got to start in qualifying. I think it's going to be a hotly contested qualifying, to say the least, with the top three being probably as close as you could possibly imagine. And so Oscar is going to be my pick for P3 this weekend. Let's see what he can do from there, but I think we're seeing a bit of a resurgence from Oscar Piastri right now. As we move on to P2 in my qualifying, I'm going with Lando Norris. I think this could be one of the most anticipated qualifyings in a long time. Definitely in the last 4 years, to say the least. And so this is going to be a qualifying session for the ages. Who starts where and who finishes qualifying where is going to be a huge talking point. And I think it's going to be very interesting front row start, because my pole position here in Abu Dhabi is Max Verstappen. I think put the 3 championship rivals all right at the front, see what they can make happen, and let's get some fireworks, because I think we could be in for a doozy of a Grand Prix. The race start would be immaculate. But let's hope that we get this. Ultimately, if we get something absolutely insane, we'll take that as well. But there's something about a race start with a championship on the line, with the 3 individual drivers battling it out, starting right at the front. Sign me up literally every time. Let's go ahead and move on to our race podium. Let's begin in P3. And in P3, I'm going with the man himself, George Russell, the man who loves to just spawn on the podium randomly. I think this would be very befitting of George Russell here in this era of regulations, his first full regulation era in the Mercedes, and I think spawning in a little P3 in Abu Dhabi would seemingly fit him pretty well, especially considering the Ferrari pace was very bad in Qatar. Abu Dhabi, obviously a little bit of a very similar track with a couple of small tweaks, but at the same time, I don't know how well Ferrari are really going to be doing this weekend. I think we'll see George finish a nice little podium to finish out a very solid year for him in the Silver Arrows. But to say the least, I think the talking point of this podium is going to come a little further up. So let's go ahead and move on to P2 in this one. And I'm going with Oscar Piastri. Obviously, this would be a good result for Oscar. Obviously, his run of form over the back half of the season, down the stretch all the way up until Qatar last weekend, was very, very tough to watch. Not to say that he was, crashing out every weekend or finishing last or anything like that, but I think we were very used to seeing Oscar finish in these positions more often than not, and I think this would be a nice way to end off a probably pretty safe to say a disappointing finish to the 2025 campaign. But at the end of the day, I think we're only seeing the start of Oscar Piastri, and I think this would be a befitting way to sort of put a bow on this year. A very, very good year for Oscar Piastri to side up and get a little momentum moving forward to 2026. But my winner of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is Max Verstappen. I said we were getting crazy at the start. You can already tell where we're going. I promise we're gonna touch on this more soon. But Max Verstappen is my pick for the winner of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It is not uncommon for the leader to utilize the clear air, especially with this era of regulations where it's so tough to follow other cars. If Max gets a good start, is able to get a bit of a lead, and obviously doesn't make any major blunders, I think this is going to be a Max Verstappen win written all over it, especially knowing it's a championship decider on the line. He has been here plenty of times, and I think he'll have the mental to do whatever it takes to get a win in Abu Dhabi, and I think it comes true. But there we have it, my race podium, a Max Verstappen win, an Oscar Piastri P2, and George Russell for the final time in 2025 spawning on the podium. All right, here we are, our final prediction in 2025. I have already wrapped up my championship campaign when it comes to these predictions, and so let's get absolutely insane this weekend. We have seen in years past, more than a handful of years ago at this point, some absolutely insane finishes in Abu Dhabi. Let's get another one. My final one crazy prediction: Max Verstappen is your 2025 champion of the world, cementing his 5th championship in a row. Bookmark it, take it to the bank. It's coming in. Let's get insane. This is the point that I kept saying we were going to come back to. I think the way that McLaren has handled this championship battle is one of the worst I think we've seen in a long time. I think this is almost as up there in terms of potentially putting yourself in danger, and they've already done it once before, back in 2010, where they had an opportunity to secure a championship and just let it slip away right at the death. And so this is a situation where, for better or for worse, McLaren, you made your bed, now you have to lie in it. I think this could be a moment where everyone is going to assume Lando still, regardless of the McLaren mess-ups, regardless of the controversial moments, McLaren will still manage to pull it out despite it all. They'll celebrate like they won 1,000 championships in a row. But the way there's just something about it that just doesn't sit right with me. I just, for whatever reason, just the way, man, the words are almost impossible to find. The way they let a Constructors' Championship winning car by this margin, and the individual title battle is coming down to a final race where your championship leader effectively has to podium to win the championship, is insane to me. Max Verstappen thinks it's insane. He even claiming had he had the McLaren would have this championship wrapped up many races before the season was over. And for whatever reason, whatever vibes in the universe are speaking through me right now, let's get absolutely insane. A meltdown for the ages. Max Verstappen to be 2025 champion of the world. And there we have it. Our predictions for 2025 are officially done, recorded, cemented in history. I can't believe another year is already coming and going. I cannot wait already for the 2026 regulations, but nevertheless, we have one race weekend to go, which we will be back once it is all said and done. When the championship is officially wrapped, we will know who is hoisting the trophy here in 2025, this time in a few days. We'll be back when the weekend is all said and done to talk about exactly what we saw this weekend. Every turn, every break, every moment will be recorded in history. I cannot wait to see what happens. We'll be going over everything, as well as taking a look at these predictions, which probably aren't going to age very well, but nevertheless, you never know. But until then, guys, I'll see you in the next one.